Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Chai Time, where we hold real conversations that challenge, inform, and uplift. For those who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the Chai Time family. Today, in honor of Disability Pride Month, we are diving into a conversation that lives at the intersection of identity, community, and culture. This month isn't just about awareness. It's about pride. It's about shifting the narrative from pity to power, from limitations to liberation. In this powerful conversation, I'm joined by Misbah Lakhani, Outreach Coordinator at Daya Houston, a nonprofit doing incredible work to support South Asian survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. Misbah's work centers around advocacy, education, and creating a safe, culturally grounded space for healing and empowerment. I'm excited to have her here to share her insight and voice. Good morning, Misbah. It's been a while.
I know.
It's been a while that we've been here together having this conversation.
But I'm back, and I'm better than ever.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be talking about one of my favorite topics, actually.
Okay.
Disability and how it is often invisibilized is one of, the things that hurt my heart a lot, and so I'm very happy to have a platform to kind of talk about it, especially within the capacity of my work and of Daya, and here, especially here.
Yay, yeah, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you are touching on this topic because, we have y'all every month, on Chai Time, and I think this is like our fourth year with y'all, and this is the first time we're actually touching on disability.
Really?
Yes. So, and I wasn't even aware, honestly, that July is Disability Pride Month until, you sent me the flyer and everything. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this hour. Gonna learn a lot.
Everybody.
Okay, so Misbah, can you tell us why it is important to celebrate disability?
Yeah, and like every identity, I feel like when you are a person of color, when you have any form of just anything that makes your body and anything that makes you should be celebrated in any capacity. And I think often, again, like I said earlier, disability gets invisibilized in such a way, even though it is one of the largest and most capacious identities that one can have, especially after COVID-19. Everyone there has had COVID and they were disabled temporarily when they had COVID. Some of us have long COVID. Some of us were born with disabilities. Some of us have disabilities that you can't see or hear. And sometimes, honestly, even the systems that we live in and the environments that are around us disable us in more of a meta philosophical way. Where if you don't have access to clean water, you can be disabled. If you don't have access to good food, nutrition, you can be disabled because of it. And if you have epigenetic oppression when it comes to colonialism, you can be disabled from your genetics, and it is just something that happens. And imagine how many people in the South Asian community do we know with diabetes. We talk about diabetes so often in our community, but we don't think of it as a disability. And so that's kind of the thing where I wanted to highlight the fact that disability is very common amongst us, and it is something that shouldn't really be overlooked, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm glad you have given a vast definition of what disability is, because most of the time in our minds, disability is only one thing, right? So in this way, it's wow, this is also disability. This is also disability.
Yeah.
So that's great that you touched on that.
Yeah, and you can't even tell with me right now, but I have scoliosis, and I didn't even know that I was disabled because I was just moving around the world like I am, right? And so if we think about it that way, if you see somebody walking, generally talking, happy, excited, fun, you wouldn't necessarily assume that they would have a disability because of the stigma that is around disability.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm here to kind of dispel.
Yeah. Break the stigma.
Exactly. That's what I'm here
It's
for.
not a bad word. It's not a bad thing.
It's not. It's a beautiful community to be a part of.
Yeah, definitely. So today's episode is about the intersection of disability and domestic violence. Can you tell us more about the various ways they intersect?
Yeah, I will go off most obviously where if somebody is experiencing physical disability, they may, physical abuse, they may have also a tendency to experience physical injury. And that physical injury can lead to disability. One often that we overlook with that is traumatic brain injury. It's so hard to diagnose, especially if there's repeated head trauma, especially if there's just a lot of kinds of physical abuse can cause it, and it doesn't take very much because your brain, while protected by a very, very strong skull, can just slosh around in there, and that's not good for it, and it's such a hard thing to diagnose. Like, the only thing that we hear about with traumatic brain injuries is that one movie with Will Smith in it where he was talking about TBIs, you know, like that was the main thing that people think about when it comes, or football players, right? So those would be the two examples, but they couldn't, that lives so specifically in our mind as something that happens to that category of people, or is something so rare, but really it's so common to experience. And further, if you talk about like depression even can be a disability. And so if we talk about somebody who's in an abusive situation, they may be depressed to the point that they are disabled and are not able to do a lot of their regular functions. And that is part of how this power and control cycle works, where if the whole point is to disempower somebody, is to control somebody, and if you emotionally disable them, mentally disable them, and like partake in that process of any kind, it can create a disability. And also, not only does, I'm saying so many things. Sorry, I'm so excited to talk about this.
No, go ahead. This hour is just for you.
And so not only is it the fact that you might receive a disability through the experience of abuse, right? And might gain a disability through the experience of abuse. It's also because that disability may also impact your functions on how you respond to situations within that abusive situation. And so this can mean that somebody may take longer and may have a harder time finding other options or leaving that situation, or just doing maintaining their agency, and how much agency they can maintain might be challenged because of that disability. So it is something that we see often, but again is an overlooked aspect of what the situation is going on in an abusive case.
Okay. So as a domestic violence agency, how often do you encounter disability within survivors?
Yeah, so I had to look at the stats myself, and it was 44% of our clients have some form of disability. Either they have a disability that is not connected to the abuse, or TBI, or have received an injury that has disabled them throughout the time of their abusive situation. Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's quite a big number.
So it's almost half. So that's
Exactly.
the thing, where it's like when I was saying how disability is very, very common, like it's 1 in 4 of us. So like even in this room, at least you have me, right, in here. And then it's common, and it just makes everything more difficult when you are experiencing an abusive situation. So that's the thing, where it's such a capacious and very difficult thing to deal with, only because we don't talk about it, nor think about it, nor know how to support it. So yeah.
Oh, wow. And I'm glad we are talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we are, I'm learning more about it and getting more information, and so is all our listeners who are tuned in today, because it's so important. We don't realize, in so many ways they are kind of like gelled together, right? So that's great.
Even here, one thing that I even wanted to talk about is that in a family dynamic, if there's if there is abuse going on, there may be a family member who is disabled within that situation. That is not the actual experiencer, and they may be caring for that person, that disabled person, and that might also be impacting factors too. So it's really not even just the fact that disability and domestic violence are intersecting with the experiencer. It's also with the people that the experiencer / survivor might actually be interacting with within their household, and how disability might be a dynamic within the whole situation and context and environment of the experiencer.
So I guess it affects, on the whole, it affects everyone
Yeah.
in the household,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so what specific barriers might survivors who are disabled face?
Yeah, so lack of access to care, that's the most urgent one. If there are resources, medications, somebody can take away their medications, and they can, there's so many barriers that I can think of. Like, on the part of the abuser, it can be anything to maintain that power and control and utilize that disability to somebody's disadvantage. But also, again, like I mentioned a little earlier, like, the survivor might not seek care, not be able to seek care because they need accommodations to seek that care. It could be they are not able to leave their situation because there's somebody, they themselves cannot physically leave, they cannot emotionally leave, mentally leave, or it is because there is another person who they're taking care of who is disabled. And if the experiencer is all that disabled person receives care from, is the person that they receive care from, they're not really going to have other options. That disabled person is not going to have enough options. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know, it could be a language issue. If somebody is deaf, if somebody cannot hear, cannot speak, they may actually physically have issues to speak and communicate with somebody. And it all kind of ends up with the access of care, like the lack of access to care and support without accommodations. That can be a wild, wild host of possibilities, because language issue, physical, cannot be able to walk. It could be mentally cannot able to walk, like cannot leave the house, cannot leave bed, because that is all that person is able to do. And it's kind of on the part of us to also just be as accommodating as possible, and we try to be as flexible as possible as an organization. Like, we have done some absolutely wild things just to make sure that somebody is safe, and we go through all of those jumps and leaps and bounds because we know that it is really, really difficult sometimes for any care to come through, you know?
Yeah. So as an outreach coordinator for Daya, when you go out into the community, do you also touch on these things, like, related to disability and things like that?
Yeah, and for me at least, the issue sometimes arises where I don't know somebody has a disability, and so it really does sometimes play on the part of the person, or like approaching me to tell me that they do have a disability. There has been people who have not been able to speak, and I write to them, like I always have in my wallet, there's always a notebook in my wallet, and I literally use it multiple times. I have used it for people who have hard of hearing or just cannot hear at all. And I'm trying to learn sign language, but I'm really, really bad. So I try my best to just be like, my name is Misbah, I can write. And that typically sometimes works out a lot. And if there's physical disabilities, we can always work with, thankfully, again, I have some background in disability justice, and I've been really, really grateful for my experience with my disabled community. And it's been really great to know that there's multiple accommodations that somebody can have in their tool belt, like having just pen and paper, or pull out their phone to speak, voice to text. If somebody is blind, you can, again, read out and voice to text everything that somebody is saying, or you can, if there's any stuff that you need to show, like a flyer, for example.
Right.
And when it comes to being neurodivergent, or if somebody approaches me that is neurodivergent, I have some experience in what is it called, in communicating effectively with people who are neurodivergent, and so that has been helpful too to have in my toolbox. But it's really just like whatever the person needs, you can kind of accommodate to whatever the person needs. That's kind of but if you already have that little bit of knowledge, it helps to go further and make everything a little smoother. Besides that, at the events that we host, we recently hosted a movie night, right? And one thing that I really wanted was not only just like ADA type entrance, so be able to just enter without any accessibility barriers, but also on the movie we were watching it with subtitles. That was one accommodation, because sometimes, I don't know if y'all are like this, but even for me, I can hear better if the words are on the screen, and that's a very subtle thing and nobody would really think of it as an accommodation, but there may be somebody who needs that accommodation, you know. So it's just making sure that people read up and research and make sure that little things to accommodate everybody are really in place in your daily life, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So what are some common misconceptions people have when it comes to disability?
I think the main one, again, is that there are only specific kinds of disability, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
So people often think of people who are in wheelchairs as somebody who is disabled, and that is the typical mental image that pops up in somebody's brain. But again, it's so capacious. There's so much that can envelop into disability, and it's, again, after COVID, I feel like I really refer back to COVID, where how did you feel? Could you do anything while you had COVID? Because I'm sure everybody almost that I know has had it. I even had it like 4 years later, but I still got COVID-19. And like afterward, I think about the afterwards, where that week after, when you're no longer symptomatic, you're still struggling. Like it's hard to breathe.
Yeah.
You still can't smell like your favorite
Taste,
scent.
smell, yeah.
You can't taste your favorite food. And that portion of it where you're technically no longer positive, right? And you've passed that threshold of being symptomatic, of being having the virus, but you're not asymptomatic.
Yeah.
And that portion a lot of the times is the capacity through which people's disability lies, where it disables them just a little bit, but it still disables them.
Correct.
And that's the thing where I feel like people really need to kind of change what they see as disability, and it can be just that portion of being asymptomatic and it disabling them for the rest of their lives. And you may not be able to convince somebody to say, no, I cannot taste. Nobody can tell you that, right? You can't really test or see that somebody cannot taste. You can't see that somebody cannot smell, but you have to believe them. And that portion is also something.
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm just, like thinking when the word disables is such a, stigmatized word, like people don't want to use it, but yet when we are describing it, it's okay.
Yeah.
When you simplify it, it seems like, oh, it's okay, right?
Yeah.
So it's just so ironic that how our perception is in that way. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not a disabled person. But when you are defining what disability actually is in simple terms, it's like, oh yeah, I do have that.
Yeah.
But I'm not disabled.
Exactly. And honestly,
so it's just,
Yeah, and that was me too, like I knew something, like I've always described it as like one of my shoulders is higher than the other, and it's like the tiniest little bit, right? But I had these like aches and pains in my back that I couldn't describe, but I was like, I'm not disabled. Like, and then whenever I even got my scoliosis diagnosis, I was like, I'm still not disabled. I'm still not, and I had to even work with myself and be like, no, this is okay. You are disabled, and it is okay to be disabled. And now, since you know what is up with you, you can get all the care and accommodations that you need to live a healthier quality of life. You don't need to be in back pain every day. You will be, but you can limit the amount, or like the excruciatingness of it, you know? And it can just be a little dull ache if you just accept that you really are
Yeah, it's the
disabled.
acceptance, right?
Yeah.
It's so huge. Like
Yeah.
once you accept it and you admit that, okay, I do have this issue, I do have this problem, and I'm not able to do the normal things, then it's so like it's so different. Then you want to work towards like getting better,
Exactly.
right? But if you are in denial and you keep saying no, it's not me, or it's just this, and it's nothing really, it's a normal thing or whatever, then you're never going to work towards making progress, right? Like improving your health or other things.
And even in the cases where like your health cannot be improved, right? Like you can't, my scoliosis again is at the exact angle where I can't get surgery, and it won't reduce any much even if I do any type of treatment, right? I'm not qualified enough for surgery. My whole back is twisted around and I still can't do much with it. So my thing is that it won't get, and I'm quite okay with the fact that it won't get better and there's no options for me, but I can ensure that I'm not suffering every day, and do stand up for myself and accommodate myself. And make sure that if I sit down, I don't feel guilty for sitting down because somebody else should be sitting down. I need to be sitting down. I feel pain. I should be okay to sit down. So it's also that where the acceptance really not only helps with improvement, it also just helps with like changing how you see yourself and what your body needs, because denying what your body needs is really the very sad thing that happens and can hurt so many people.
And not feeling guilty.
Exactly.
Like acceptance and not feeling guilty, accepted and not feeling guilty about it. It's that's so important. So, Misbah, tell me, what are some of the most powerful moments or lessons you've experienced doing this work?
I would say literally every day is a dream. I think it's really, really powerful for me whenever clients come up to me, like potential clients come up to me, and they tell me like, hey, I'm going through something. I tell them at first, actually, let me tell you the whole scene. It has happened like this a million times at this point, where somebody will just ask, what is Daya? Because we still are, what is it called? Like people just don't know that we exist, or it's just like a new word for people. And so I'm just like, hey, we are a domestic violence agency. I give my whole spiel, which I will at the end of this. And they then are just like, you know what? I just left this situation. And I need some help because I'm staying. And there's just so much detail that comes, like just willingly. And it's in that moment where I'm like, you know what? I can give you a card. You can call us and you can have support. You can have the support that you need, and let's see what we can do with it. That's a small but powerful moment always for me, just because like I know materially there's somebody that I can potentially help, and we have potentially helped. So that moment on one hand, and on the exact opposite situation, there's been past clients who have come up to the Daya table and been like, hey, Daya helped me in X amount of X year, like 20 and 19 and is sometimes my favorite one is always, is Nusrat still there? And I can be like, yes, Nusrat is still here and kicking my best. That is my favorite line. And it's really, really powerful then, and just gratifying to know that I'm part of something bigger that has helped so many people. And so on both ends, in the front and the back, it's really just small moments where I can materially see that I am making that change, and that we are making that change as an organization, and hopefully supporting as many people as we can. That's the most powerful moments for me.
You're definitely doing God's work on earth.
I can't accept that.
I mean, all of y'all as a team,
Yeah.
it's amazing the work that y'all do. Every month we always get new guests from Daya, but every guest that come on the show, we learn so much, and every one of you are putting in so much into this organization and helping so many survivors and so many people out there who really need it. And it's not only, it's not only the work, it's just the heart that you'll put in, your passion that you'll put in, and you'll take it's the love and care, the compassion that's all in there. It's not just part of your work, but it's like, you'll do phenomenal work, and every time y'all come, always it's a learning lesson for us. Like, we learn something, we take away something from each episode from y'all. So it's always amazing.
I appreciate it. I certainly cannot take any or any of the credit.
A little bit.
I would take maybe a morsel. You know why? Because when I wasn't even supposed to come back to Houston at all, I was supposed to be in Colorado, but literally, like how the whole team was talking about Daya and like how I found out about Daya, and I was just like, oh my God, it would be a dream to work here. Like they seem like they really are doing the work, and they are in it for like with the heart and the compassion and like everything that you should be in a cause for, or in any type of work for, you should do it because you love it and you love the work. And that's why I actually moved back to Houston, was because of Daya, and how even I noticed that it was doing such incredible, amazing work. So I will take maybe a morsel, because I've been here at least a year.
You should, for sure.
So that is my morsel I'll take, but really it's everybody else.
All right. So let's go on a short break, and when we return, we will continue this conversation. This is Chai Time, 103.5 Hum FM. Welcome back to Chai Time on 103.5 Hum FM. I am in conversation with Misbah Lakhani from Daya Houston, and we are celebrating Disability Pride Month. So let's get back to our conversation. My next question.
Yes, I'm ready.
How do concepts like shame, silence, or saving face impact how disability is viewed or hidden in families?
Yeah, and again, to go back to the disability and domestic violence intersection, often we talk about how people don't even share that they're having issues within the home, right?
Correct.
And shame and guilt and saving face has been such a barrier towards receiving care and towards receiving any type of solutions or resources towards leaving an abusive situation, right? And the same honestly can be said, again, if we switch the language up a little bit, if there's something like, you know how I never told you before today that I have scoliosis, and I didn't, like, that's not something that I would have shared, unless it really, really came out in a situation. And it's not really even that I'm ashamed or that I have guilt or I'm saving face, right? It's just like this internal thing where you just don't share, and you have that internalized especially if you're South Asian. And I will say, we South Asians do have so much internalized shame and guilt, and we, not more than any other people, but we have this internalized shame and saving face or lokyaking and all of these things, right?
Yes.
We do have some form of just culture of saving face, and internalized. When it's internalized, it can show up in a whole host of ways, and sometimes it is just not sharing that I need an accommodation because I can be okay. I can be okay sitting down. Like, I don't need to tell you that I have an accommodation and make everything more like, make it about me, make it about something, or make it a big deal. Like, I don't want to do any of that. So I'm just gonna sit down. I'm all right. I can assess the situation and make my accommodations for myself, right? And to go back to the language change portion of it, where if you just say, like, disability can prevent somebody from accessing the harm, the shame and the guilt and the saving face can maybe, like, stop somebody from receiving treatment, or just not gain resources from their community, or just, like, not share. And, like, we know that there has been so many barriers to access and given accommodations before, and so like maybe you feel shame or guilty whenever you do, because you know it's going to be a big ask. So anyways, all that to say, really, both for disability and for domestic violence, the point really is that both of them harm, like the shame, the guilt, and the saving face can stop people from receiving care, can stop people from leaving a situation, can stop so many things, and kind of shushes all of the conversation that we are trying to have and that we should have within our community to make it a safer place, to make it a better one, to make it a healthier one. That shame, guilt is something that I even have to work on, you know, and that's a communal thing where we have to make it so that we don't internalize, like we start looking at the internalized shame that we have within ourselves and what we have that about and what we internally judge others for. We all do it, but we need to look at why we're doing it, how we can change, what we can do. And not only does that create a safer place for us, it can also create a safer space for everybody who may have a disability, who may be surviving something, or both. And it can help them feel like they're in a safer space to be able to also work with, to kind of overcome that shame, overcome that guilt, overcome whatever the judgments and the potential conversations that they think that they might happen. It won't, because we've worked on our shame. We've worked on it too. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's really that all of us and all of our internalized shame really harms everybody, especially the people who maybe would feel, and we do in a way, judge more, or would have like societally said that we would judge or we would shame, you know?
Yeah. And I think, like you said, you know, like normalize the conversations, or, you know, it's nothing to really hide. And I guess like even through generations, we are taught that way, right?
Yeah.
So that's why now we are changing all our narratives. We are making that effort, right? Like as a parent, as a mom, I'm teaching my sons very differently to what my mom has taught me, right? So we are changing and we are progressing to that. It's not, you know, you shouldn't be shameful to admit if you have an issue, you have a problem, because if you keep it within yourself, it literally kills you from within.
Yeah.
But if you can share it even with one person, you know, that makes a huge difference. And then, you know, you're on your way to, you know, changing your life for the better.
Exactly.
Yeah. So because many times we are just like, oh, it's my issue, it's my problem, I'll just deal with it. But then you're not really dealing with it because you have just kind of buried it in there. And one day or the other, it's going to come out, and it's just you don't know in which direction and how it'll come out, right? So it's so important that we say, like, talk about it. It's okay. You have someone close, you have one person you can share it with that person, because you never know, that person might be really able to help you, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, you know, talking really helps. It's not just talking superficial things. It's more about meaningful conversations. Yeah.
That's the only kind of conversations I like.
Me
Unless
too.
I will ask where everybody's going to a vacation, but that's because I'm nosy. That's literally just because I'm nosy.
That's okay.
But
We're giving you some ideas where you should go the next time.
Exactly. I want to know where the cheap flights are. But we can still have those, but I think they mean nothing. And again, that was my a very intentional way of of interrupting, because the thing is that we can still have these meaningful conversations and we can still laugh.
Yes.
And that's that was my way of being fun and including this little message where these meaningful conversations oftentimes people think are really, really sad, really hard. And they are. And the thing is that we don't need to make it any harder. And especially if everybody is going through it and everybody can relate to some aspect of it, we can go through it together, and we can and this is my very hopeful nature coming out, where it's like we can all hope together, we can all laugh together and do the hard work. And I think if we, again, that part of normalization is not just like talking about it in like levity and just like having 15-hour-long conversations about very, very tough things. It can be just a hour-long conversation where we do touch on these things and then laugh in the middle of it.
It's a balance of both, right? You have to have, you cannot just have fun and laugh and just be silly all the time, because after a while that gets boring.
It does.
You know, you have to have real meaningful conversations too. And, you know, like speaking of that, I just recently went on a family trip. We were all in Punta Cana, my mom, my sister, my brother, all from Canada, and our family from Houston. And we had such a great time. But there were moments where I had some one-on-one time with different family members, like able to talk to them, get to know, like, you know, what's happening in their lives, right? And what's going on. Like, I shared a room with my mom, and I mean, I call and talk to her, but I haven't been doing. I've been a really bad daughter. So I got this opportunity to spend time with her in the room and really talking and, you know, getting to know, like, how's her health going, how's she doing, and things like that, right? So having those meaningful conversations and seeing, like, you know, like she's spending time with her friends and she's really enjoying, she goes for her walks and things like that. And, you know, some of her friends I know, so she was able to share even more and go into deeper conversation. So that is what I'm saying. Like we having a good time together also, but then at the same time we are having those meaningful conversations. I mean, FaceTime and calls help, but when you're in person, it's just a whole different feeling. It's a whole different thing, right? The dynamics are different. Definitely.
So cute. See, now I know. That was my secret ploy, and I found out.
And I'm sharing it with everyone on air. So how can we respect cultural identity while still challenging ableism embedded within it?
My thing is always, whenever, I think the thing is where we don't want to do so much of, we've seen how one way works and it doesn't completely work, so we're going to try the exact opposite. Sometimes that doesn't work either. And so that's the thing where we've done it this way, we've always done it this way, and we don't really question why. And that sometimes somebody really just like goes the opposite direction, right? And it's just like everything is bad that we used to do. Everything is, and I will get to the culture part, but everything is bad and we should do everything the opposite way that we've been doing it. And oftentimes the answer and that other extreme wouldn't really work either, and they soon realize that other extreme is just as extreme, and so people just come back to somewhere in the center, right? And the same way I feel like people approach culture, where it's like, especially Gen Zers, I feel like who are American born, I think often what we have like the capacity of doing is like, our parents have done something in a way, our grandparents have done something in that way, everybody's done something in that way, and now we are in a different place, so we're going to do everything different. And then again is the case of some of my peers where they realize soon that doing everything the opposite way, or doing everything the quote-unquote American way, right, doesn't really fulfill them either, because there's that part of them that is cultural, that is an identity, that is their heritage. And to deny that also, and to do everything different and the opposite, hasn't really fulfilled them either. And so they come back somewhere in the middle, and they make their own middle, right? And I think when it comes to ableism, the same thing could be said, where it's like, there may be some things that are very harmful that in our culture, in our community, in our heritage, that we do need to break. But we don't need to just be saying that everything that we do as a heritage, everything that we do as South Asian people is wrong and we need to change it, right? We need to come back and question. We need to be like, okay, so what parts make us uncomfortable? what parts can be accommodating. Maybe I can't have spicy food, and it's okay. I can just have paneer that isn't in a spicy sauce or in a spicy curry. You know, like that could be the accommodations that we could make. Right? It's like you can still have paneer if you want. You just don't need to douse it in all of the chilies, right? And that's kind of the
food is easy, girl.
it's a metaphor.
I know.
It's a metaphor. But that's what I mean, where it's like, and that is easy, you know? Like, you can start with something as easy as, like, I can't eat spicy food. I can, personally. Everybody listening, I can eat spicy food. But this proverbial just want to make that clear.
I was like, boy, she's not going to come to Ollie's.
No. But a proverbial if I don't like spicy food, I don't need to now eat like chicken tenders for the rest of my life, you know, like bland chicken tenders. I can just eat the same foods that I want, and I can just turn down the spice and cook it myself, or ask somebody, hey, can you just make me before you put in the spice, can you just put my stuff in a separate bowl? Or like, you know, like ask and figure out what those accommodations you need are. And you don't need to give up anything. That's really the thing, where it's like you can just enjoy everything. That is hopefully the goal. And again, with disability, that is what it is, where it's like I can't, like, at a wedding now, you know, like I used to be up front. I'm dancing for 4 or 5 hours. I am not leaving that dance floor. If there is a dance floor, there should always be a dance floor. And now I will take breaks. I will be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Oh my God, I've jumped for so long. I didn't even know I could jump that high. Yeah. So let me go take a drink. Let me sit down. And literally before, I used to like dance for 4 or 5 hours. You would not catch me out of the dance floor. So it's really just, when it comes to making accommodations, it could be as simple as that, or you can have a wedding venue that is ADA accessible, you know? And like, it can be as simple and as complex as however you need to make it for your life, but it's really like little changes that somebody needs to make, instead of overhauling everything that they ever knew, because now they have gained this identity, or somebody in their life has gained their identity and gained that identity of being disabled, or has one. Thing gives me hope. The conversations that we are having, this conversation especially gives me a lot of hope, just because I feel like always the first step is to talk about it, right? And the more that we have conversations around being prideful about disability justice efforts, like I'm going to start wearing a mask more often, you know, especially when there's like new COVID strands coming out, right? And now people are not even they now do get a little concerned, being like, okay, do you have something if I'm wearing a mask around? But when I tell them no, like, I just don't want to get sick again, or I'm doing it for everybody's safety, nobody really questions it anymore, right? And so that is, in a small way, again, disability justice, where it's like you're keeping everybody safe by wearing a mask. And I think larger conversations, if like around disability justice and it becoming more normalized, and there are more disability justice activists. There's like 2 in particular called New Disabled South, which specifically helps change the stigma and is advocacy around disabled people within the South of the U.S. And that has really been, them gaining a lot of traction has really been so affirming and so humbling to see, you know, that people really do care, and people are starting to care, and people are starting to look towards disability as having some answers for how all of us should care for each other. Correct. Like disabled communities take care of one another by accommodating one another, right? Right. And oftentimes people who aren't disabled, like, that is something that people struggle with, is how do I take care of you? And we're having all of these discussions around community about how do we take care of one another? How do we make sure that we dispel all of these stigmas? Like, there are networks and deep care, which is also honestly very collective as we are South Asian. I want to come back to the point that we are already deeply knowing of how collective collectivist cultures work, and how deeply we can care about one another, and how much we can do for one of our friends. Like, I've always been told that the friends that we have, right, are ones to die for. Like, that I would do anything for my friends. And that combined with disability, I think, creates, and who disabled communities also create deep networks who take care of one another, who accommodate one another, who are there for each other because they know best how others need accommodations, right? And to combine the two, I feel like literally it's going to be the most caring community ever that solves everybody's problems and solves the world. And I think that's where my kind of hopefulness comes from, is people really are on a very grand scale realizing how community is the center and is the change and is the possibility for changing everything and making everything better.
Yeah.
That was my very hopeful vision that you saw.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And it's happening. It's
Yeah,
not,
it is. Yeah.
So it's slow, but surely it is, progressing. So that's good. So when you go out into the community and you touch on, disability, what are the reactions within the community? Is it more reserved? Is it more, people are more forthcoming, or it's a big eye opener for them? What are the different reactions within the community?
I think I've gotten all of those reactions. Honestly, I haven't gotten as many negative reactions ever, or like reserved reactions. I think everybody that I thankfully talk to has been like, oh, like, what, the first question is always like, what do you mean? Like, that to learn more. And I feel like even that, where somebody's perception is being shifted by just like, that's not, what are you saying? Like, what do you mean? What is this? To being like, oh, okay. And that, oh, okay, being as much as extreme as, I don't really care about this, I'm just saying this to end the conversation, to, oh my goodness, you've really changed my life. That question to reaction portion has honestly been the best thing ever, because at least people are asking the question, and at least people walk away knowing something.
Yeah.
Whether they agree or not, whether they are going to implement it and it's revolutionary to their thinking, who knows? But as long as I've done my part of talking about it, I'm happy.
Yeah. So you do get feedbacks, which is great.
Always.
Yeah. As people are not just, 1 year in and 1 year out kind of a thing. So that's good. So what are the ways that our community can show up and support our community members?
Yeah. I think, if you learn nothing from knowing me, hearing me, seeing me, anything that I've said over the past hour, I will always say community is our core, and we should always support one another, and we like ourselves should also do the work to make sure that everybody else is safe around us. And I think that's really the vision that I come to anything with. And the message really is like, we can say that abuse is bad, that we should be prideful of disability, and that I can come with a million slogans, right? But really the community implementing it, and it doesn't mean anything until the community implements it. It doesn't mean anything until communities themselves make changes to implement those slogans into their lives. And so really my ending point is always that we need to change our communities. We need to make small changes. We need to make big changes. We need to make as many changes as we can to make sure everybody is safe within our networks. And it can be as small as a family. It can be as small as my household with my cat. It can be as large as Houston, Texas. It can be as large as the world. And so whatever you consider your community and what capacity you have to think of community for, like maybe it's your Chai Time community, like we have so many communities we're a part of. So to make sure slowly but surely we're doing the work to make sure all of our communities are safe, kind of has that ripple effect to make sure that we ignite change and we make sure we make everything safer for everybody.
Yeah. And okay, so what's new with Daya? What can we expect in the future?
We have a few things going on.
All right.
We do have a gala coming up in September, and we're very excited about it. We are collaborating partially with Free From for it, and they we are showing a, what is it called? Art. Okay, let me backtrack. I've been doing too much gala work. Basically, what I really want to highlight is the fact that we have the documentary Survivor Maids. One of their leads, Cherry Morse, is going to be our guest speaker, and we're very, very excited about that. And you should all come out. And I have been working on it, so you should specifically come out because you're hearing my voice and. You've heard from me for an hour, so you should come out and attend, have some good food, hang out with me more in person. I will be there. I don't know why I would be the attraction to this, but I'm just hoping people like my voice at this point. That they want
She's fun, trust me.
Exactly.
Every time Misbah comes to Chai Time, it's a whole different atmosphere over here.
So you need to experience this.
Yes.
You know? And for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we are doing something that we've not done before, which is that we have an annual celebration called Brown Bodies, Bold Stories. We are actually doing it again in October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so this is a poetry open mic night. If you want more details, contact me at outreach@dayahouston.org and I will give you all the details. If you want to speak, if you want to be on a mic in front of a bunch of people, tell me and I will make that happen for you. And simultaneously, we're working on like this. It's in the beginning stages, but I really want us to be excited about it, about how you heard last month about men's experiences and men's surviving experiences, right?
Yeah.
And we're trying to work on, also for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a opportunity where men's voices might be centered, and we are still working on it. And again, y'all should follow us. You should follow us at Daya Houston on all platforms to get some updates on that. And what else? But yeah, Gala's taking up most of my time though. But so I really hope people come to Gala.
Yes, she's working really hard, so we all should be there to support Daya for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, those are some fun things. There are some secret things happening, but they're still in like the baby stages, so I don't want to say too much and then it looked completely different than what I promised. So just know that there's secret good events happening in the community that you should show up for, and how you will find out is through following us at Daya Houston.
And I've always enjoyed attending the luncheon, so I'm really looking forward to this one because it's the first one, right? So it's going to be great, grand, and a lot of fun for sure. Yeah. So before we wrap up, what's one message you'd like to share during Disability Pride Month, especially for those navigating both cultural and ableist barriers?
I hear you. I see you. I empathize with you. I hope that at least from this hour, we got to a point where you can receive some resources, have some community around you. Some minor change, little changes happened where you know that you can feel a little safer in this world, and I think that is my message. And if you ever need support, please contact Daya.
Wonderful. What a great way to end, girl. Thank you so much, Misbah. Thank you for sharing your voice, your passion, and your incredible work that you're doing through Daya. It really means the world to all of us in this community. You know, truly, conversation like this helps break the cycle, and it really raising our voices makes a huge difference. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, and thank y'all for letting me talk in for an hour.
Yeah, and for anyone who has missed this episode, you know, be sure to download our podcast, Chai Time Podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you've missed any previous episodes, you can check it out there as well. And we'd always love you to share Chai Time Podcast with your friends and family. Your presence and love means the world to us. Thank you for joining us this morning. Signing off, Chai Time 103.5 Hum FM.